So my army, I have two wild riders, not wild, glade riders. I do have a wild rider here and a wild rider there. Some way watchers. My lord is just a glady on the regular elven steed, and then I have a little anchor here. So my thoughts were my opponent's going to get frustrated with the glade riders, and then I want them to come into this anchor, which has a treeman, a branch wraith with earthblood, two treekin, and two spears. Also, what I did is I had one group of wild riders hidden here and one group hidden here, because usually what will happen is after you spring the first ambush, your opponent will get sloppy because they'll assume that you don't have a second ambush. So I'm kind of baiting him out because I assumed he would have warhounds or something. So I'm going to have them come back here, spring the first ambush, spring the second ambush. My opponent has a front line of Chaos Marauders and Forsaken kind of interspaced throughout, which is interesting. And then 4 Chaos Hounds, 2 Poison, 2 Regular, a Lord of Fire, a Chaos Lord, and a Manticore. So in the beginning here, I'm just peppering. I'm just trying to pull him out of position, and he probably just assigns and goes. So I do move my Way Watchers out to the sides because if they do kind of notice him, I don't want them to be an easy target. So I start the first ambush here because I wanted the easy pick, and now he's gonna keep pursuing. And meanwhile, I have my little anchor squad here in the water because regular sized infantry do suffer penalties for fighting in there. So now kind of just all the bows are starting to unload here. So you can see he's starting taking a fair amount of damage. I think Lord of Fire is actually a poor choice in this matchup because that's a fireball, but a Spiritual Leech would have done more. So I don't think Lord of Fire is a worthwhile pick in this matchup, but that's just me. So what do I know? So now I accidentally moved them out of position. I wanted to wait for a little bit longer, but it is what it is. So I'm going to start pulling all my forces over here because what I want to do is I want to prance around my little anchor. So anytime he comes in, I want to prance up and around. He comes in this way, I can prance around because I am faster except for his warhounds, which now he has moved out of position because one was already far back here and the other one he didn't want to get jumped by the wild riders. And wild riders is one of those units I just forget kind of how good they are because every time I play, I always assume that they're worse than they actually are. So I'm going to go ahead and hold down the space bar. You can see where everybody's moving. So I'm starting to pull my units in here. And I'm just keep my, Way Watchers out and about. So now I net down this first group because it's going to hinder the movement of the next one so I can jump in here and hit. However, I couldn't see the warhounds. I thought they were farther back. So I am going to suffer a little more than I should have. And that was my mistake. So now you can see where I'm going to have this little pivot point here. So every time he comes in, I'm going to start sending my riders around this kind of central anchor or anvil. You can see over here that the Way Watchers, I always say take off fire at will because you don't want them wasting their ammunition on scuts like Marauders. So now that he's coming in here, he's trying to catch me, but I'm going to keep pulling back. And now I see he's sending his Warhounds again, so I'm going to take my Wild Riders, come around, and snag them. Meanwhile, I have the healthy Wild Riders over here. My opponent's kind of a little frustrated because he can't catch me, so I'm going to take that anchor and I'm going to push it up here because there's nothing really that's a threat. So, Wild Riders come in. I pulled off one of the spearmen to grab him, and now he's going to pull his Lord and the Manticore over here, and we're just going to unload. So I'm keeping this second group of Wild Riders ready for when he lands. So he comes in for the landing, decides better of it. I pop the Earthblood, now the combat's on the way. And you can see that what units are starting to get caught in here are just going to start getting shredded. So what I think he should have done is taken his forces, made a more unified line, and then broke off on the sides, and at least enveloped me. I know he couldn't catch all my units, so maybe pulled off some Forsaken to try to chase down the Way Watchers. Also, you can see what kind of damage these Way Watchers have done. Pulled off that Chaos Lord. I know a common pick also that I've been facing that's pretty good build is front row of Deepwood Scouts with Silver Stars, and then you have a bunch of Wild Riders for support. So now he's falling in here and engaging, and because I have all the Treekin, his Forsaken aren't getting the matchup they want, which is to fight the Internal Guard. He did manage to come over here and isolate my one unit of Wild Riders, and they're going to fall off, but I mean that's the price I got to pay. It's the price I got to pay. But his Lord and his Sorcerer are starting to take some heavy damage. Over here, I'm having to keep around this pivot point, and I'm using my Wild Rider to keep hammering whatever comes in, to slow him down so I can keep pulling. Now, my units are fast enough and on guard mode, so anytime he lands, I can keep pulling them away. So now I'm just having to put them all on fire at will. They're not always shooting the targets I want. You can see they're shooting over here in the Forsaken, but really, I want them targeted here. You can see my opponent now, he's stuck in this kind of quagmire. And because I have the terror and the fear causing, he doesn't really have what he needs to get done. Although his Marauders with great weapons are doing a fair amount of damage because they do have some AP. So they are able to push through some of those Treekin. Back over here, you can see that I did pull away with my Wild Riders, and I guess my opponent just wasn't paying attention. So now I'm going to come back, counter charge. And one of the problems I think he had with his list is he's microing all three of his flying, and he's not rallying these kind of broken units that need to come back. So he is going to come back in here. We're just going to keep peppering, keep falling back. Really, we want to protect the way Watchers. So everyone's going to go in different directions. So if I hold down spacebar, you can see that they're all going in kind of different directions. I pull away from that fight to jump on the Warhound so I can hopefully save what units I have and come back around and start opening fire. Meanwhile, here at the pivot point, you can see that we're starting to really just grind away with what he has, because the Forsaken aren't seem to get in, and the Eternal Guard do okay against the Marauders. So that's kind of the engagements I want. And anytime he comes in, we spread every direction, and then just open fire, and then we come back as soon as the threat's gone. So I do think I got his Lord at this point. No, his Lord's still over there. Okay, so I get him a little bit later. So this is one idea for the Wood Elves. It's kind of how I like to play when I fight the Forces of Chaos, because they'll tend to go real Forsaken heavy. So I like to have a nice little kind of tanky center that I can hit and run and keep my shots on the outside. So if I do shoot into this combat, which I will later, or rear charge, they're all exposed on this flank, so I can come in and really start to hammer. So you can see Rudolph coming in here, giving these guys the business. But unfortunately, because I have such good range, you can see all these different circles. So here's my kind of the zone of death. I'm going to be able to start picking things off. So my first priority was the Chaos Sorcerer, but as soon as you get out, I'm going to switch it over here to the Chaos Lord. And he's going to want none of this hot business right now. So you can see that he's already dropped. Just the constant peppering, constant harassment. Had this been, say, like a Bretonnian build, I would have rethought kind of what I would have done, because they do have Earthblood and they have ways to heal. And they have a fair number of things, like Knights of the Realm trade fairly well with some of the Treekin. So he does take his Warhounds, come back in. But as you can see, I'm still leaving my Lord back here. And the Lord is good enough that he can fight off Warhounds. I don't think I noticed it at this point, what was going on. Or maybe I just saw the balance bar. I'm like, well, let me just try to finish off his last leadership. So that's the first battle I have for you. The second one is Bretonnia versus Chaos. All right, let's look over the breakdown. So on my side, you can see it's good performance out of my Wild Riders and treatment. I did overextend with this one group of Wild Riders, and that's my fault. The Way Watchers did fine, because I just mostly used them to snipe Lords, so that worked out well. And the Treekin holding the line with the Eternal Guard. So I think overall, everyone's performed about what I expected. And the Glade Riders, while not getting a lot of kills, their real job was just to keep attention on them and try to pull his resources away. Over on his side, not really a great performance. I think his problem was he just didn't have anything really to kind of stop my large or catch me. I like the Hounds. I don't like the pick of the Mana Cores, because it's used too high in the air. You can't really protect your guys. I would have rather seen them on like Barded Warhorse, or not Chaos Steeds. The Chaos Steeds. What else is there? I think he would have been better off with maybe some Knights, just to hold things down, or maybe even a Shag Off, just to have the ability to do some damage. Because you can see this tree, man, nothing happened to him. So anyways, let's cut back out, and I'll rejoin you with Bretonnia. So I was going to have that Chaos battle, but when I look back over, it's only 3 minutes long, and it didn't really provide any kind of new insight. So let's go over my army, and let's go over what I was thinking. So I paired up against an Elf player. So I grabbed the front wall of Flagellants, and my idea with them is just they have a high damage, and they can hold down anything he has. And 2 Great Swords just to kind of push through any formations he has. I have the Silver Bullets and the Sterling's Revenge. My thinking there was any kind of tree unit, I could just gun them down like the dogs that they are. And then use some crossbowmen to kind of pepper any light infantry that he has. And I grabbed mortars because a lot of Elf players tend to stay still. And I figure let's see how the mortars do. They do have 1 chevron on. Have some spears in the back, and then I just went ahead and put my 2 Knights, or just regular Empire Knights, nothing crazy, just to kind of help protect the rear. against Wild Riders or anything else, any kind of funny business he might have. And I got the Toddbringer next to a dead body. Is that? Yeah, I guess dead body, and a Light Wizard. So you can see the battle starting underway. And I went ahead and I'm targeting his archers because I think this is going to be his real killing power. Not too much else there. So you can see off in the distance he has some Wild Riders. And he has Eternal Guard and War Dancers holding his flank, Eternal Guard in the rear, and then just Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts. And then he has a front line of Tree Cannon. Interesting build. He does have the Glady up on this Forest Dragon, and I think I forgot to mention he does have the Lore of Life here. So you can see the mortars are starting to get in here and start doing some real damage. They're already down to 56 models. So I'm just starting to pepper. As soon as he starts to move in, I'm going to go ahead and issue my orders because I want to tie him up and I want to have my units really kind of hammer him out. So he's getting in here. He's starting to fire into the flagellants who don't have any real way to protect themselves. So you can see I gave everyone a big order just to envelop. And over here, as he moves his Wild Riders in, I'm trying to pin them down with my Cav Force because I think with my heavy armor, my shock damage, if I can stop him from charging, I'll be able to win that fight. So my opponent, realizing what's going on, is now just focusing all his fire on my greatswords. It was a good move, and you can already see my mortars who are coming right in here have dropped, just kind of rattered, or it's made his archers kind of almost unusable there. So I keep spinning him around, so if I hold down space, you can see that I'm just switching targets. And now I have this kind of cone of death. Let me get that space out of the way. I have this cone of death going onto his Glade Lord, and you can see that he wants none of this hot business. He did pin down one of my greatswords with the net, and now they're kind of stuck, just getting hammered away. And that's the price I got to pay. That's the price I got to pay. Meanwhile, he did manage to try to sneak around his War Dancers, but I did intercept with the greatswords. So now it's kind of the engagement I want. So all his archers are staying static. I'm getting my fire off, and I'm trying to pin them down. So this was my plan. I don't know if it necessarily is a good plan, but it was my plan. And you can see the Wild Riders, because they have a high charge and frenzy, that they really wanted that charge. So I just came in, hammered, and now that I see they're running, he's moving in guard. I'm going to try to take my knights, come up and out, and then hit him in the rear charge and start hitting him back there. So his Lord does break. At this point, I decide I think I have an opportunity, so I send in Boris Tiebreaker in here to get some work done against this Spell Singer. Some magic little balls going back and forth. Over here, nothing really much to say other than flagellants are just standing there, not dying and just not running away. The greatswords are losing, but they're kind of tattered from all the bow fire that they took earlier. But you can see the mortars still hammering, still firing. Because look at this, direct hit, another hit. They didn't want none of this business. And the archers are doing exactly what I want them to do. If there's anything that's weak, I'm just going to have them target that. Sterling's Revenge and the Silver Bullets opening up on these trees. You can see they're starting to get some real work done. He's still chasing my riders, and I see the opportunity to come in here, but my opponent, being the smart guy that he is, went ahead and pinned down my Empire Knights. So now, well, this is goodbye to those Empire Knights. It was glad you came. So meanwhile, he's Earthblooding it up, trying to hold up here. My spears are still holding the back line, and I'm just hammering everything I can into his treatment, his tree cannon, hoping to kind of win this fight. Boris, however, I did get out of position and go to my opponent for getting him in there with the Azrai Spears. Is something I did not want to have, and he's just going to get gunned down. I don't think he dies. He does get routed off, and he's going to chase him all the way through. So I managed to push off one group of tree cannon. However, he still has a high model count, and his Lore of Life Spell Singer is still there. So I'm still trying to pick away. I'm trying to use my crossbows to get to those Azrai Spears. My other group of knights are coming in here trying to harass and hit anything that they can. And I'm just sending in these great swords to keep the fight up and away from me. So my opponent, being smart, managed to come over here and trap me down. So I had to reposition my firing line to help over here. Because I want Sterling still have a fair amount of ammunition for a late game, and I want to pull them out. So I'm trying to get the spears into combat here. The knights come in and hammer these Wild Riders. And then my Lore of Light Wizard, I have no real good targets right now. I think I do waste one of them, but I shouldn't have. Mortars still firing. This whole game, just nothing can stop them. And just massive fire going back and forth. So over here we got some Glade Guard still pushing through. His Lord chased off mine, but now I got some War Dancers chasing. War Dancers are pretty fast. I think their speed is about 50. So all I have left is a spear and a little bit of knights. Where did my knights get off to? I think they're chasing someone off. So I had the routing knights, and I don't know where the other one went to. Oh, they came up here because I saw the opportunity to try to start routing off his archers. So I went ahead and pinned down his Eternal Guard. And so they were all chasing. So notice that their shields are facing the knight. So every shot I get in here, he doesn't have a chance to block. So they're really just going to start taking a lot of damage. And because they're not moving, those mortars are still going to put in some work. So what else do we got here? So once again, my flagellant's doing exactly what I want them to do, just pinning up his units. So that's about 1,000 resources on my side. I think 1,050, and he has about 1,300 points of resources just pinned down here. So I'm moving in, trying to get some better shots. I was trying to take out his lord, trying to snipe, but in hindsight, that might not have been the best move. But he is starting to get low on ammo. I'm doing decent for ammo, so I'm about a quarter. His guys are about 1/10 of ammunition. I still have a full unit of spears that I hold up. So his lord is coming down here chasing mine. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to pull my guys back because I don't want this engagement. I still have ammunition on my mortar, so let's go ahead and hit him. Now I'm going to try to pop a net and get all my archers or all my ranged units to start opening fire on that Glade Lord. So still a pretty good close fight. You can see all I really have left is this pocket of just, they're all healthy. It's just, you know, they don't have much ammunition left. Meanwhile, let's get some bombardments going in here. My opponent is just not wanting this hot gunpowder action. He is losing so much, and they do have a higher rate of fire. Plus, every time you lose miles, you start to lose ammunition as well. So he's really starting to get hammered. And luckily, I have the silver bullets, which do ignore his little, I don't know, fairy save, phase save, force spirit save. That's what it is. And I do have some Empire Knights, so we're going to come in here. I'm going to try to just route him up. I wasn't sure why he didn't charge, but that's right, he routed off. So I'm firing off there. So now I see his Internal Guard coming in. So I'm going to start splitting my guys up. So let's hold the space bar here so you can see I'm positioning around. And I'm going to send in this little group of Empire Knights just to hold down long enough to get the crossbows away. The mortars are firing in here, which maybe I should have held for a little bit, but I'll be okay. They are hitting my troops, but at the time of the micro, I wasn't really doing what I needed to do. So I'm going to pop a net. And so now that the net's been popped, everyone's just going to form ranks, and we're going to just do volley by fire. So we're just going to come in here behind the silver bullets, and are they wearing Sterling's colors? I think they are. So we're just going to come in here and start opening up. Now, my Lord of Life Wizard is feeling the bloodlust. So he's going to come in here, and he's just going to give the smackdown, fire across the face, right to that spell singer. Meanwhile, my spears, I don't know if they're winning or not, but they're standing. Really, I guess they have a chance because the only thing he really has left with any life is these war dancers. So I'm just opening fire, and now that I see that I'm trying to push all this away, I'm going to start repositioning my mortars to start trying to fire into there. But I have to wait till a net. My hopes is I can net one more time and pull my spears away. And once I can pull my spears away, everyone will be able to unload. But you can see the balance of power is going in my favor. And the only thing he doesn't have that has severe route is that one group of war dancers. So let's take a look at how everybody performed. And let's take a look. So well played for my opponent. I think we had very interesting builds. So let's take a look at what my guys did. So the great swords not performing as well as they could have. I might have been able to get away with just 4 groups of regular swordsmen. Flazwich did a great job of what I want them to do, just hold down his line and just get the business. Great job out of the silver bullets. They just really hammered his lady. And the knights did a mixed bag, but a great performance out of the 2 mortars. He did have 1 chevron, so that's 3 chevrons right there, maybe even a 4th if you can count the experience. And let's take a look at my opponent. I think he moved up a little too aggressively with those wild riders, and I was able to pop him out before he could get any real work done. The Treekin did okay, but I think the only real disadvantage I think he had is he spent too much focus on the flagells. He took his Glade Guard and had focused on my ranged units. I think the battle would have gone in his favor. And had he taken his Eternal Guard and moved them away from the flagells, it also would have played into him. So I hope you enjoyed that. I know I